Hello, I'm Julie Tilly, Closest Corner. I met so many green people in New York City that I decided to interview them. With Closest, our sustainable marketplace, we already helped people to buy sustainable. But it's not enough. People ask us a lot of questions about how they can start a sustainable life. It's why I decided to take my shoes, the bus and subway to take a discussion with all New Yorkers who can help you to have a greener life. Hi, Anne Therese. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
And I'm glad to meet you today. I really like to understand how the interviewer come to a sustainable approach, and it's why I would like to you explain to us today how you start.
My start to the sustainability world?
Yes.
Oh goodness, I don't know where it started. I grew up in Sweden and was always very aware of things. I was sort of the recycling cop amongst my friends, and I would definitely go to the trash bin and pick out things that didn't belong there and put them in the right bins and stuff. So I was that person. But it wasn't until I moved to New York for an internship in my early 20s that I got exposed to this disposable waste culture that exists here, and I realized that, whoa, this is so much bigger than me. It is not just about me and my individual actions, it's about culture shifts and systems, and that's ultimately when I really started to decide for myself that I wanted to commit my life's work to working for sustainability and speaking up for those who can't. So I want to be a voice for animals and trees and nature, and so all these beautiful things we have that can't speak for themselves, and I wish to be that voice for them.
And if you need to introduce you in one sentence before we start to learn about your activity, or can you introduce you in one sentence?
Oh, introduce myself in one sentence. I was just talking about how I do so many things. I am Anne Therese Gennari, the Climate Optimist, and I am here to inspire people to find curiosity and courage to embrace change.
Perfect, nice job. And you are an author, and I would like to understand why you choose writing to spread your sustainable message.
I have been wanting to be a writer for as long as I can remember, and for some reason this form of art always spoke to me and still does. I try to be more active in creating reels and videos and get the message out there in more like short format content, but ultimately I love to write. Writing this book, I got up at like 4 or 5 in the morning, writing before everyone else was up with a little candle. That's really when I get in tune with my message, and yeah, I wrote this book for almost 10 years and always find so much joy in the writing, and I feel like it's when I'm writing I can sort of channel something bigger than me. So that's ultimately why I decided to say, like, this book needs to come out because I've been writing it for so long. Yes. And I feel like what made me really find confidence in putting it out into the world was that I recognized that it wasn't necessarily my message. Obviously I'm writing it, but I do feel like I have channeled it somehow from something bigger than myself. And I was like, I'm the conduit. Like, how can I not put this out there? I'm just a messenger. So yeah, that's why I wrote the book. So great. And can you tell us, yes, you maybe more about your book? What exactly we can read? What's your message? But don't tell so much, please. It's a big book, so I would not give it all away, trust me. So it's called the Climate Optimist Handbook, and I intentionally made it a handbook because I wanted to be very hands-on, both inspirational but also practical, so people can really take on steps and start practicing things in their daily lives. And it's written in very short chapters, so you can read one chapter in the morning or at night, and then like that's it for the day. Because I would read two pages and then I'm falling asleep. So I totally understand that whole, like I'm not a book writer thing or book reader. But the book is about helping people not just navigate through these times, which is filled with anxiety and fear and despair, and learn how to live with that and actually ultimately let those feelings empower us. That's one part of the book, but then also it's about, like starting our own life's journey and recognizing that we are here on Earth today, and that is significant. Like that means that we are here to undergo some go through some pretty big changes, but ultimately that can be pretty exciting. And so for me, it's about moving from this felt responsibility that's very heavy and doomy into a place of opportunity to say, wow, what a great time to be alive. It means that all of us can come together, start asking the right questions, and choose change. And what if we start to just slowly embracing change in all areas of our lives? How can that, make my life better, but ultimately at the same time make the world better? So I do make a lot of connections between, personal growth and personal healing, and how that will automatically ripple effect to healing and changing the world as well.
Guys, you need to read. And you recently become a mother. And has it changed your outlook of the world? And after I realized to you if you have an idea to write a second book, maybe because you become a mother.
Oh, I would love to write children's books. I just recognized the other day, like everywhere I go, I see like little creatures, like if it's in the floor patterns or on the wall, and I'm like, oh, I can just like see things like popping out of nowhere. So I definitely have like a very, childish mind, and I would love to write kids' books at some point. Becoming a mother has changed everything. It is, as anyone who's a mother knows, very exhausting. I'm in the early days. She's only 3 months old, so I'm still in that like sleep-deprived state. But I just have a whole different look on life. I mean, in one way, obviously, I'm more concerned than ever because I have a child now and she's going to grow up in this world, and the future is her future. But I'm also excited in a way because I get to share this journey with her, and I now think about the future very differently. And not only that, but I feel like it's allowed me to just settle into the present in a different way. Having a kid just forces you to slow down and to recognize that there are so many moments of magic all the time. And every day now I wake up, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like I'm still trying to pinpoint how I've changed, because becoming a mother changes just so much. But it is this like acceptance of this is what it is, and what it is beautiful. And now I know I'm saying that as a privileged person living in New York and having things available to me, and not everyone has that kind of reality. But I think if we allow ourselves to really recognize what we already have and hone in on that, first of all, it makes us more sustainable, because we don't need shit to feel happier, right? We don't need to be running all over the place to feel fulfilled, because just waking up and being with her in our apartment is such a fulfilling thing. And yeah, I do have hope for the future. I do think that beautiful things are continuously emerging from within us. I mean, I literally, created a child, which is still so wild to me. The human body is amazing. But I think that's another thing we have to start thinking about. We have to move away from the image of humankind as this vicious species that's here to only create harm, to one of, wow, we are magical and we are creating beauty and love all the time. And if we recognize that, there's so much to treasure. And I think that's the place we need to start working from moving forward.
Yes. It's a good philosophy.
Yes, for sure.
And my last question is about, do you have any advice for people who would like to write a book about climate change?
I would say, I would give some of the advice that was given to me. If you want to write, just write. Like, I've heard this saying, like, everyone wants to write a book. Everyone wants to have written a book. No one wants to actually write the book. That's the work, right? And there are days when it's magical and everything just comes to me. And then there are days where you're like, I have such a writer's block and nothing makes sense. And you start to doubt your work. Starting a practice of just writing every day, that's 30 minutes in the morning. And if some days you just sit down and you're just looking at the screen, that's fine. Like, those days will be there too. But just creating a habit of continuously writing, and trust your message. What you want to do is get into a flow where you are sort of channeling something from deep within you. And another advice that was given to me was, don't write it for someone else, because once you start to think about like, oh, I'm going to write it for, this person, you start to alter your message to maybe this is what they want to read. Just write it as you want to write it, because that's how it's uniquely yours. And then obviously you will work with an editor that kind of like fine-tune the message, so it's like more, it approaches more people, but you want it to be yours, and trust your work and your wisdom, and just keep writing, because that's how a book is written.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And do you have something to add? I'm sure you have.
Well, there's so many things. Well, first of all, it is extremely nice in New York today, which is beautiful, but not quite what it should be in February. I feel it's a little too warm. But, you know, I would say I want everyone who looks at this to recognize what an incredible time we're living through. And although that is very scary and uncertain, we have to start to recognize that we all get to be heroes, which obviously is really fun and exciting. But we're not on our own. You know, we have community and we have other people fighting the good fight. And as soon as we come together and recognize that, there is so much power in that action. And I think we have to give ourselves a break. It is not our fault that we're facing a climate emergency. It is not our fault that our oceans are plastic filled or that we're losing the Amazon rainforest. Like, all these things are human made and human caused, but it's not our individual faults because we live in a world today that is set up to continuously fuel this system. So I think once we move away again from that feeling of shame and blame and responsibility into a place of opportunity and excitement and recognition that we can change things, and let's get excited about that, and let's stop pointing fingers because that's how we get stuck in the current reality, and instead, you know, take a step back and expand our minds and start to explore new ways of living that are ultimately better than what we know today. So yeah, just remind yourself that you are here today for a reason, and you have a beautiful opportunity to participate in the shift towards a better world.
Thank you, Anne Therese.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.